Hey everybody, this week is my birthday, so I decided to make this week special for the channel and make a video every day, Monday through Friday. Each video will talk either about HeroClix or Pokemon TCG, and the final video will talk about this channel itself. Thank you everyone who supports this channel, and I hope you enjoy these videos. Hey everybody, this is Matt. I'm making a new Pokemon TCG video. In this Pokemon TCG video, it's talking about my favorite Pokemon cards in the past. And basically, I've gone back through from base set to more recent sets and picked out 5 Pokemon cards that meant a lot to me in the past. And then also, I also picked out 5 other cards as runner-ups that meant a lot to me but just didn't make the list. So these cards, I'm not saying these are the best cards from the sets, or even these are super competitive cards. I'm just saying these cards meant a lot to me in the past. So let's get started. The first card comes straight from base set, and that's Blastoise. You look back, it's funny to look back now and see these cards with 100 hit points, 3 energy for 40 plus. But I mean, back in the day, I guess that was decent. But the big thing about Blastoise was his Pokemon power, Rain Dance. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach 1 water energy card to one of your water Pokemon. I remember this card was so fun. You would take the time to set it up, and then once it got set up, you would just be dropping the water energy down. And you would Professor Oak and get yourself another hand and draw more water energy down. I remember playing it with Articuno and just basically any water Pokemon you could get your hands on, like Dugong or just anything, and it was such a cool card that, it turned the tide the second it came into battle. You may have lost a few prizes, but when that Blastoise hits the field, you drop all that energy down, boom, you're back in the game, and I remember playing it in the base set, but I also remember playing it even more in the Pokemon trading card game, Game Boy game. And that card was just so good in the Game Boy game. It's a shame we've never gotten any other trading card video games after that. The next card is a personal favorite of mine, maybe my favorite card of all time in Pokemon TCG history, and that is the Neo Genesis Meganium. Not only is Meganium one of my favorite starters ever, I think it's so beautiful of a Pokemon, but it had such a cool Pokemon power, Wild Growth. As long as Meganium is in play, each grass energy card attached to your grass Pokemon instead provides 2 grass energy. And it was just amazing because settling attacks that cost 4 energy now only needed 2 energy. And it was kind of a different way of looking at energy acceleration, where, in an energy acceleration deck like Blastoise, you maybe would run 15, 16 energy, so you could put a bunch of energy in play and do your thing. But with Meganium, you could run half that. You could run like 8 energy, because you knew the second you got Meganium in play, there's 8 energy, we're kind of worth 16 energy. So that gave you more room in the deck to put other stuff. And again, it only works on grass Pokemon, just like Blastoise only worked on water Pokemon. But it was still, definitely one of my favorite cards. Neo Genesis is maybe one of my favorite sets ever made. When that set came out, it was just so many brand new mechanics, so many cool things. It really changed the game when Neo Genesis came out. And Meganium will go down as one of my favorite cards of all time. Next card on the list is Durant from Noble Victories. And this card, it doesn't have any kind of flashy Pokemon power, but it has an amazing first attack. And I love this card. This card talks to me how I make decks nowadays. I'm not looking for a card that does 200 damage every single turn. I'm looking for a card that has a unique way of winning the game. And this deck had a unique way. For 1 metal, Devour. For each of your Durant in play, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. So you would just get out you get out all 4 Durants, and just start milling the top 4 cards of their deck. If they KO'd a Durant, you like revive it, put it back in play, and keep milling. They'd have to KO 6 Durants to win the game, but you're racing them, seeing if you could deck them before they KO'd the 6 Durants. And I absolutely loved this card. As long as it was legal, I was playing this deck. I always had this deck available because I just loved the Durant. And they've come out with newer versions of Durant that kinda are okay, but none of them are ever gonna be as good as this one was. And I really miss this card. I love it so much. The next card is Machamp from Stormfront. And I've always liked Machamp. Probably because I had a good friend that I used to go to Pokemon tournaments with, and we both kind of gravitated towards fighting Pokemon. And this card was so good back in the day because, there was this day and age of strong basic Pokemon. This was around the time of SP Pokemon. Basic Pokemon that could level up into, stronger versions and stuff. And this Machamp was a hard counter to all that because of his takeout attack. One fighting for 40 damage. If the defending Pokemon isn't an evolved Pokemon, that Pokemon is knocked out instead of damaged by this attack. And it was just the counter to it, And I loved it because of that. I still believe in evolution, even though the developers continue to pump out EX after strong EX after all that kind of stuff. And Machamp was just a card that allowed me to rebel against all the SP basics and all that stuff and still do really cool stuff. He had some okay attacks. Hurricane Punch wasn't bad. They eventually came out with Machamp level X. They also gave him another attack. Rage, I almost never used Rage, but Takeout or Hurricane Punch were cool, and I just really like his use in the format, and I wish we had more cards like that in today's format. More counter basic cards, other than like Jolteon EX, The next card is Infernape from Diamond and Pearl set. In this card, it was funny. Diamond and Pearl came out of nowhere, and I think it released like right before Nationals that year, and nobody was really expecting much from this set. But Infernape was like the silent, sneaky, like, rogue deck, and it was because that two fire for 90 Flare Blitz, even Meteor Punch wasn't that bad, and the free retreat on them. And, you would just rare candy into Infernape, have your second fire, and just 90. Boom, And it was just a really, really fast deck. And I think it caught some people off guard. And I remember really liking the deck because of how fast it was, how consistent it was, how strong it was. I have a thing, and I've always really liked these stage 2s that have a 1 energy attack that can do some good stuff. You'll see another Pokemon later on that does the same exact thing. But this card was really cool in its days. It's probably my favorite card from the whole Diamond and Pearl block. And I just really, really liked this card. It was really fast, roguish at its time, and just a cool Pokemon. So those were the top 5 Pokemon for me, but I had to make a 5 runner-up lists. So these are the Pokemon that still had a lot of meaning to me, but they just didn't make the top 5 list. Crobat from Unleashed. Now I've always loved Crobat cards. There has been a long history of amazing Crobat cards, and this is probably my favorite one of them all. Free Retreat, 130 hit points. Actually, this is like Crobat Prime. There was never anywhere nicknamed it Prime. It's just maybe Nintendo used that wording. It doesn't say Prime anywhere on there, but that's what the art design is around the art. But this card was so cool because of his first attack. Severe Poison for 1 Psychic. The defending Pokemon is now poisoned. Put 4 damage counters instead of 1 on that Pokemon between turns. And that was just amazing. I remember even playing them with, there was a Weezing that came out around then. It said in between turns, put 1 additional damage counter on poison Pokemon between turns. So you'd have the Crobat doing quadruple poison. You'd have Wheezing maybe bumping it up to 5, maybe bumping it up to 6. And then it was just crazy. They take 60 or 70 damage in between turns for poison. And I absolutely loved it because it wasn't a traditional uh, 2 energy for 120 damage. I'm just going to destroy you. This was a poison, that was really interesting. I can't remember if it shut down abilities at that point in time. I think at that point there might have been Pokemon powers and Pokemon abilities, and Pokemon powers were shut down by status conditions, but abilities weren't. But still, the second attack, Skill Dive, it was okay. Hit anybody for 30. It's okay, but the severe poison, I just remember being so cool. And even when you're facing EXs or any of that kind of stuff, you could wear them down quickly. And it was just a really cool Pokemon. And I've always loved Crobat in the Pokemon TCG. Another Pokemon I've always loved in the Pokemon TCG is Gengar. And, it's funny, they're both Psychic, Crobat and Gengar. They're both Stage 2's Crobat, Gengar. But there's just been so many cool Gengars. And this probably stands out as my favorite Gengar. I almost put up the Gengar that could send Pokemon to the Lost Zone or Lost World or whatever. And I almost chose the Gengar we have recently. But I had to decide on this one because the Fainting Spell Pokepower was so fun. Your opponent would get set up, they come at you, they knock out your Gengar, and they maybe put 4 or 5 energy, on their Pokemon. Okay, maybe that's too much. 3 or 4 energy on their Pokemon, and you're sitting there with 1, and you flip that coin once during your opponent's turn. If Gengar would be knocked out by damage from an attack, you may flip a coin. If heads, the defending Pokemon is knocked out. So, they're hoping you get the tails, and you're hoping you get the heads, and it's just such a fun little Pokepower that allows you to trade, And then 1 Psychic Shadow Room, put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If they have a Pokepower, put 6. That was actually pretty useful back in the day, with Uxie and stuff like that. There was a lot of Pokepowers being used and stuff, even Gengar. And being able to snipe anything for 60 for 1 Psychic, that's pretty freaking strong back in the day. Free Retreat, Resistance to Colorless, even his Poltergeist attack, look at your opponent's hand. This attack does 30 damage times the number of trainer, supporter, and stadium cards there. I mean, that's pretty decent, I think back in the day we had a Vileplume at that point too, that could lock that kind of stuff. And then that might have been a combo back in the day. But I just really like this Gengar. Free Retreat, Fainting Spell, Shadow Room was decent, Poltergeist was okay. I just really, really liked him, He was not another one of those cards that could just do a billion damage. He was more of a finesse card. And Gengars have always been really interesting in the Pokemon TCG, and this is probably my favorite one. The next card is one of the more newer cards, and that is Emboar from Black and White. And I just, this card just came at the right time for me. Black and White was coming out, and there wasn't a whole lot that I was really interested in, but I love the Inferno Fandango. It has a fantastic name. It's basically what Blastoise did, but it was really nice. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a fire energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So it didn't have to be put on a fire Pokemon. It could be put on anything. And that was just really cool. You could combo it with so many different Pokemon. I played it with Reshiram. And basically you just power him up really quickly and he'd get going, And it was just a really cool card. His attack wasn't the best. His retreat was but I mean, 150 hit points for his stage 2 is still really good. And this was made back in 2011, I mean, that's crazy that in 2011, 150 hit points for his stage 2. I just really like the card. And they've reprinted them over the years a few times. It's just a great card. I love Energy Acceleration when it's this free and this full of energy, It's a great, great card. The next card is Jumpluff from Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Heart Gold, Soul Silver was a really cool set, but this card really jumped out at me, no pun intended. Basically, one grass, it does 10 damage times the number of Pokemon in play. So, like, this was before the Sky Stadium, so you couldn't get out like 16 Pokemon or anything. But still, if both players had a full bench, it could do 120 for one energy, which was amazing, just amazing, 90 hit points is weak for a stage 2, but Jumpluffs have always been weak. Free Retreat's really nice, Resistance to Fighting's really nice. Leaf Guard wasn't a horrible attack, but Leaf Guard was useful if you wanted that second hit. Like, let's say you hit somebody over 120 and they're still alive. Well, next turn you could hit them for Leaf Guard to finish them off, and then also protect yourself for 30 damage, which you would need with only 90 hit points. But it was just really quick to set up, really quick to power. You could do a lot of good damage, and I just really, really like the card. I gravitate towards these stage 2s with really cheap attacks like Infernape, Machamp, Crobat, Gengar, and Jumpluff. It fits my style. I'm not one of these players that wants to set up an EX with 4 energy and then get going. I want to do that stage 2 with 1 energy and just start poking it already, And Jumpluff fit that style perfectly. Finally, the last card on the list is Togekiss from Great Encounters. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of energy acceleration, and Togekiss does it really interestingly. Basically, once during your turn, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck, choose as many basic energy cards as you like, and put them and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. And I tried playing this card with so many different other cards because it doesn't matter what kind of basic energy it is, and it doesn't matter what kind of Pokemon you put it on. So you could run it in an electric deck or a fire deck or any kind of deck really. And its attacks are colorless, so you really could run it in any kind of deck. It was really interesting to try to run it. I remember back in the day, I think I ran it with like a Ho-Oh or something, and you would try to get multiple different energies on certain Pokemon so they would do more damage. And that was always interesting. And you'd try to figure out ways to put cards on top of your deck so that Togekiss could find the energy that way. Or you'd spend the whole game kind of like drawing cards and then putting energy back in your deck, and drawing cards and putting energy back in your deck, so that when you get that one Togekiss down, boom, there goes 8 to 10 energy on the field, and you're powering this up and powering that up and powering this up and powering that up. And it was just a really cool little card to make a deck around and play. I don't think it ever really got popular. I don't think it really ever got competitive. But it was a fun card for me to try out, and I will always remember this card. So those were my top 5 and kind of 5 other favorite Pokemon cards of all time. I hope you enjoyed listening in on some of my favorite cards, and I hope you've got a glimpse into the past of some of these cool cards from the past. And I hope you have a fantastic time playing Pokemon TCG in the future. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and have a fantastic day, everybody. Bye-bye.